Try to find the calmest and most peaceful place possible, a place where there's no need to lock your door, because all the neighbors know each other well, where instead of the noise of the city, you hear the laughter of children, the chatter of adults, and the sounds of farm animals in their barns. Because there is no poisonous smog there, it's easy to breathe. Getting into this secluded, isolated world, let alone going unnoticed, is difficult. Welcome to my story. The wide Lena River, its tributary the Sinyaya, and the wild taiga forest separate the village of Sinsk in Yakutsk from the mainland. In both summer and winter, you can reach the village from the republic's capital by boat. 60 kilometers from the village, the paved road turns into a dirt track. It's impossible to travel on it in bad weather, and the road practically ends at the Sinyaya River as you approach the village. I'm going to tell you about a dark and gloomy part of human life. Be careful and avoid losing your head or other things. I witnessed this story from childhood. Back then, he wasn't the formidable Viktor Vitalyevich, powerful and stable like a tugboat. He is now a tall 40-year-old man with gray stubble. He will be a small 6-year-old boy named Vitya in my story. I was 4 years old. I am now 38. Although I am a financially stable adult male, every time I remember this, I turn into a scared little snot. At the end of the 80s, a stranger was immediately noticed in Sinsk. A man about 2 meters tall with an unusually long black beard that reached almost to his knees. He was as fat as a boar. He was also dressed in gaudy clothes, all red but in different shades. Everyone found him especially terrifying because of this. At first he just watched, smoked a rolled cigarette and looked into the yards. He held a large canvas bag in his hands. Vitya saw him for the first time when we were playing outside with the other boys. Max, look," he whispered, poking me in the shoulder and pointing his finger. When I heard the sound, I turned to see what my brother wanted to show me, and my eyes landed on a huge, fat figure. He was standing right there. A man with a strange face that looked exactly like Karabas Barabas from the cartoon. It was as if the boar man had broken through the thick lens of a television and entered our everyday world. "How fat," I almost yelled, "just like Uncle Kolya's boar." In my surprise, I was staring at Karabas with wide eyes as if I had seen a monster in a circus, when Vitya carefully whispered something. "Quiet. He'll hear us." My words turned out to be too loud. My brother understood this and didn't hit me hard on the lips to make me shut up, but it was too late. After hearing boar, the man turned sharply toward us and glared at us, his look full of hatred and rage. Bright eyes flashed from under his shaggy, scowling brows. He bellowed with an incomprehensible, irritated yelp, half human and half animal. The sound was so awful and threatening that my knees buckled. "Let's get out of here." As Vitya pulled me by my t-shirt, we took off and ran home. We were scared of the strange man, just like all the kids in our group. With a shriek, everyone ran to their yards to hide under their mom's skirt. As we ran, it seemed to both of us that Karabas was chasing us and was about to grab us. Our house with Mom was almost on the outskirts. Mom worked as a seamstress at a factory in a neighboring town, working 2 shifts, so we were left alone at home, waiting for her to return and spending a long time with our nanny. That man did not come to Sinsk for no reason. He had a very strange purpose. Karabas Barabas was renting cats. It was expensive. He would approach yards, knock on gates, and offer huge sums of money for local cats. The boar man didn't miss a single yard. He visited both rich houses and almost ruined pigeon coops. As a result of his greed, the neighbors dragged all their cats out to him. They were willing to sell their souls for that money, not to mention giving up their pets. Those were tough times. It was a difficult time even for those who kept a garden and raised livestock. The irony is that it was precisely that year when it was hard to maintain a large household. There was simply nothing to feed the cows, goats, and chickens. Yes, the harvest was poor, so the horrible Karabas Barabas's offer turned out to be perfect for everyone. As a result, no one refused him. From every yard we could hear the cries of children. Although the children didn't want to say goodbye to their beloved pets, the adults would roughly tear them from their hands and toss them into Karabas's bag. What were they to do? The family had to eat. The children didn't understand that at the time. He knocked on our door before anyone else's. The shack was right on the outskirts, so we were the last in line to sell a cat. The homeowner knocked on the door. "Dear homeowners, I have a profitable offer for you." He knocked again and pleaded, "Open the door, let a guest in." The door rattled from the strong blows. I felt our whole house grow quiet and tremble with horror. I hid behind a large wooden dresser. Only my round eyes were visible. I was already very afraid of the bearded man. As the older brother, Vitya had to muster up the courage to open the door just a little. The lanky man squeezed into this tiny gap. Next to him, pitiful cries were heard. The cats in the bag were stirring and begging for help, but no one was letting them out. "Oh, a boy. Do you live here? Is there an adult in the house? I'm buying cats. Do you have a cat?" The man took a deep breath and enunciated. "Mom's not home, she's at work, and my brother and I are too little to make those decisions. Go away." My brother put his hand in the gap between the door and the jamb, and then pushed on the door, making the opening wider. And just as he was about to pull the door toward himself to slam it shut right in front of Carabas, Carabas bent down, and now his whole huge head squeezed through, his beard dragging on the ground. A cat was sitting on a striped rug right in the middle of the kitchen behind Vitya. Fluffy, very attractive. Her name was Mariska. A cheerful kitty. She never scratched. We all loved her very much. "I see you do have a cat. Well, are you going to sell her?" the man asked, squinting, his small eyes getting lost in the folds of wrinkles on his wide face. "You'll make your mom happy. Look how much I'll give you." The Boer man took several paper bills from his pocket and shoved them under Vitya's nose. My brother was afraid, hiding behind the wide wooden door, looking at the horrible stranger with one eye. "Give you our Mariska?" he asked uncertainly, examining the giant and shifting from foot to foot. "And why do you need her, mister?" Carabas Barabas asked, smiling. Large golden teeth, like a horse's, gleamed in his wide mouth. "I'll make a fur coat. Do you know what prices are like for fur coats in the city? They're easy for fashionable women to tear. Plus you have a beautiful Mariska. She'll be perfect for a collar. It'll be a good fur coat. They'll pay even more for it." I burst into tears when I heard he needed the cat, and I ran to her and hugged her to me. "For a collar? Are you out of your mind? Mariska shouldn't be a collar." Vitya also began to cry. Carabas's expression changed. He became so cunning and cold. He walked closer to the threshold and stared intently into my Vitya's wet eyes. "Boy, don't be stupid. I will give you this money for just one cat. If you give the bills to your mom tonight, she'll make you pies."
"Do you want cherry or apple?"
"Will you give me the cat?" My brother cried even louder as he hesitated. This gave Vitya confidence. The little one screamed, "I won't give her away," and sharply slammed the heavy door, locking it. A fist pounded on the door at the same instant. It thumped so hard that the wooden panel trembled again. "Open the door right now, you won't give it away. Not only will I skin the cat, but I'll twist your head off too." A deep bass boomed. He not only boomed, but he also roared as loud as a real tiger bear. However, I didn't open it for him again. He grabbed Mariska and me and dragged us into the far room. Neighbors just twisted their fingers at their temples when they saw this scene. If the children are still little, what can you expect from them? They'll get more. The neighbors were so greedy that they caught all the stray cats in the village. When the day was nearing sunset, Carabas left. By that time, only 2 cats were left in the village, Mariska and Vasily. Vasily was old, one-eyed, and lived with old lady Kristya on the other side of the village. The old lady didn't want to give that cat to anyone, because he was a reminder of her deceased husband. After a hard shift, my mother came back in the evening. Information spreads quickly through the village. When my mother crossed the village boundary, her neighbor had already told her about the arrival of the cat buyer, and even boasted about the money she had received. "Look, Lubka," the woman put the crumpled bills under her nose. "Look how many people are here. Yes, you can live for a month with this money without a problem, even for the next. In addition, this is only for 2 cats. Look how much he gave for them. Are you serious? This is great. The Lord gave us luck in this year of hunger to help us cope with it. Besides, the livestock and wheat in the fields are drying up. There is a crop failure this time of year, people are hungry, and winter is not far away." Although my mother smiled at the neighbor, she was still thinking that her sons had also figured out how to sell the silly Mariska, because there was nothing at all at home, at least for now. Moreover, it is necessary to set aside the proceeds for the winter to avoid starvation. When she returned home, the children were sitting on the floor and playing with Mariska. She jumps like a dragonfly when a straw is led across the floor. What is the situation? Why couldn't the cat be sold? They were sold by all the neighbors. It seems to me that some of you are stupid. My God, why do I need these children? This was our opportunity to survive the winter. What should we do? I have not been paid my wages for 3 months. Currently, the country is having a hard time. We must make every effort to survive. How can I survive when I have no children? But only 2 stupid people. Mom swore a lot and couldn't calm down, constantly repeating, "What have you done, Harrods? How did you decide not to sell? Besides, who needs your stupid cat? She is completely useless. The mice are caught. What's the next step?"
Do you know that we could have been given money for her?
Money, there's nothing at home. So my mother hit us both swinging a towel. She swore and cried, even tried to beat both of us with a broom. She was already very upset. Finally, she made us kneel in the corner on peas for almost an hour. At this moment, she herself drank tea with dried field herbs and relaxed a little. Calming down, Vitya and I had dinner with small boiled potatoes that we had stolen from the field. Night came. After Mom fell asleep, we were still sitting in the bedroom, blowing on the sore wounds from the peas and stroking Mariska's fluffy head. The cat suddenly froze and stopped purring, despite the fact that they kept very quiet and were afraid that Mom would hurt her. We listened carefully. We heard sounds from the street. Yes, something was scratching at the door near the window, persistently, as if a wild animal from the forest had come to our house. We are sitting here and listening. After a while, someone quietly knocked on the window. Yes, quietly, as if they were checking if everyone in the house was asleep. Suddenly, Mariska jumped to her feet and quickly ran to the door. After she rushed at it, she hissed and howled menacingly. The sound of the door immediately stopped. Then she galloped to the window, soared onto the windowsill like a hurricane, hitting her forehead against the glass, and then growled loudly, staring into the void. I whispered, "She'll put you in the corner too." However, Mariska did not listen. We were shocked. Our completely adequate cat was running from the door to the window, hissing and screaming at the top of her lungs like a fool. Her hair stood on end. She became as round as a fur hat. She ran like that all night, as if she was chasing someone away from the window and the door, and she screamed and hissed so loudly that she rushed at the door. In addition, something suffered all night, and only with dawn did it disappear. However, Mariska watched the area until the last minute. She walked all over the house, listening and inspecting every room. However, it was quiet. It was probably a really wild animal. It is even stranger that our cat chased away a wolf or a bear. My mother did not wake up from what happened to Mariska. Usually she would wake up from any rustle and did not pay attention to the hissing, rustling, meowing, growling, and many other sounds. I was probably very tired during the day at work. Then she again broke away from us, which led to the loss of all her strength. Even after dawn, we both did not sleep. As always in the morning, Mariska was completely calm. Licking herself, she sat in the kitchen and didn't bother anyone. My mother decided to go to a neighbor to get eggs and bread with milk, because there was no food at all in the house. An hour later, she ran up, frightened as if she had seen a monster. Her eyes were bulging. At first, she rushed around the room, not knowing what to do, and then stopped in front of the desk and began to look for her notebook, in which she recorded important numbers, bus schedules, and other important data. Vitya approached her and uncertainly pulled on the sleeve of her robe. "Mom, who are you?" "Oh, son, trouble has come to us," Mom said, looking into her son's frightened eyes when he quietly asked what had happened. "What's happening?" "Our neighbors are not living. Although the door is wide open, I thought that the cattle could fall. They are nowhere. When I went further through the yards, it was also empty there. There is no one in the village. A dog is barking behind every fence. Cows are mooing in the barns, and there are almost no people. Only Grandmother Christia is digging in the garden. Only you and I and Grandmother Christia are left in the village. We need to go to the city, look for help," she said, suddenly swallowing hard. However, people cannot just disappear. Moreover, almost the entire village. A whole crowd of people. A terrible event happened this night. This is awful. It's as if someone grabbed my legs in a dream and tried to pull me out of bed. He was not, however, able to finish the job. My legs slipped out of his hands like butter. From behind, an old man's hoarse voice said, "I dreamed the same thing." It was more like an animal's paws than just hands. It was as if a true beast wanted to take us. Yes, the man who walked through the village yesterday. He's not a person at all. He walked the streets and gathered the cats so they wouldn't save their owners. It is said that cats can see villains and destroy them. This is the trick the villain used to destroy people's souls, and our cats were able to protect us. My grandmother told me about this when I was a little girl. This is how we saved them from evil, and then at night they returned the favor and saved our souls. That old lady Christia could barely move her thin legs in rubber galoshes across the threshold to crawl into the house. Vasya, the one-eyed cat, limped behind her, hobbling. She and Mariska rubbed against each other, sniffed each other, and lay down together on the round knitted rug. "Tell me, old lady Christia, what's going on?" "How so? I have to go to the city and go to the police. There was a ferry schedule in one place. We'll still make it today?" My mother muttered, flipping through the pages. She, of course, could not tell two little boys the whole picture of what she saw there. There were really only 4 people left in the village. The rest were killed. Not just died, they are exhausted. The villagers were lying with mutilated bodies from the beds where they slept peacefully at night to the yards where they were finally brutally killed. Intestines from a sweaty belly, as well as torn teeth and tufts of hair, decorated this bloody path. When I discovered old newspaper clippings, I learned about it 3 decades later. My mother carefully hid them to prevent Vitya and me from learning the terrible truth. However, not at such an early age. That day, my mother and I went to the city. Closer to the evening, a large number of police officers arrived in the village of Sinsk. We saved our Mariska from evil, and she saved us from it. These words remained in my memory for a long time. You can believe it or not. But since then, cats have always been a part of my life. First there was Mariska, and when my mother died, she got a few more cats. We returned home as soon as life began to revolve again. Gradually, the village came to life. The houses were overcrowded with new residents. Mostly people in need of help, such as those who had lost their homes in fires, settled there. However, life in Sinsk has changed forever. People have become less friendly and open. No one felt safe anymore. Not counting the mass massacre committed by the unclean, there were many reasons for this.